Hey everyone, welcome into Sideline Stories. I'm Ryan Wooley, being joined alongside by the head soccer coach and athletic director of the Roeper School, Ed Sack. Ed, thank you for taking the time to join us.
Well, thanks for having me here.
This is an opportunity where we get to spotlight you, talk about your school, talk about your team this year, the success that you've had, and there's really so much to get into. So let's start with the basics. How long have you been a coach, and how long have you been a soccer coach here at the Roeper School?
Oh, God. I mean, I was coaching in high school, youth programs. Went to college, played at Eastern Michigan in my senior year, started coaching at Dearborn Heights, Crestwood. Moved on from there to Ann Arbor, Huron, coached there for a while, and then landed a stint here back in 93, 94 as an assistant coach for Mike Ruddy, who was a pinnacle in soccer for Michigan, and let alone this school. We were one of the first schools to have a varsity soccer program for the boys and for the girls.
Now, you mentioned Eastern Michigan. We were kind of talking off air, and you mentioned a ring. So what is that ring from at Eastern Michigan?
Well, it's a four-year player ring. I'm proud to say it has a Huron on it, so I'm one of the few Hurons out there.
I'm an Eagle, so I had to bring that up. Of course, I graduated in 2007. We were talking about the different years we've been there, but go EMU. We can agree on that, right?
Absolutely.
But you mentioned 93. You came here to the Roeper School. Now, were you a teacher? How did you come involved with the Roeper School?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was grouse hunting in the Upper Peninsula with my father. And we were coming back on October 31st, and we stopped at McDonald's in St. Ignace. I said, hey, let me pick up a free press, because back then the classifieds had all the jobs. And so as I'm crossing the Mackinac Bridge, I found K-8 private school, Bloomfield Hills, coaching soccer and teaching phys ed. And lo and behold, I applied for that, heard back about 2 months later, and landed a part-time job here at Roeper as a phys ed teacher for elementary. And I got to coach middle school soccer, track, and volleyball.
Very nice. So physical education, and then you eventually took over as the head soccer coach in about what year?
About 98. It was 98. Took over for the first time. And like I said, Mike Ruddy, who had the program previously, really set up a great structure. Kids were organized. And so I fell into something that, it was class when I came here.
And, going from the classroom to the soccer field, to the classroom, or even into the athletic director realm, I mean, a lot of things cross over, but which one do you feel was more challenging, and do you feel one kind of carried over to the other where you were able to work with the students because you were either an AD or a teacher and a soccer coach?
Well, I mean, I was phys ed teacher, so the transfer to coaching wasn't very difficult. And, funny thing is, my sophomore year in college, my coach asked me if I would referee some games at a soccer camp while I'm taking spring and summer classes, and I said absolutely, and $20 is $20, buy me a pizza. And one of the camp counselors got sick, and they asked me to fill in and be a coach. And I had a riot, and he asked me on the spot, I need to hire you this week. And I was like, I can get paid to teach kids how to kick. This is my life, right? And so that's when I pursued a teaching career in phys ed, and the rest is history.
Now, obviously, there's a component when you're a teacher or an athletic director and a coach, and I think time is probably that biggest one. So, how do you juggle your time between all these roles?
It's my first year coaching, married. I would go out to the garage when I had a really bad loss. I wouldn't come back in. My wife said, "No, you can't do that." You and I are together in on this, and I've been blessed to have an incredible spouse. Since 2001, Lisa and I have been married, just became grandparents not long ago, last week. So it's exciting. She's helped me become a better person, and she makes a big sacrifice as well, because I'm not around a lot in the fall, and I coach track in the spring, so I'm not around a lot in the spring either.
So 24 years married, very supportive. You mentioned 2001, and so you just celebrated a grandchild. So what is the grandchild's name?
Riley.
Riley.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
And it's a first grandchild for you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So you've had a lot of moments. We'll talk about some of your career accomplishments in a minute, but where does that rank for you in not only going to college and getting a career and winning championships, but now you're on that other side of things where family, of course, is important, but now you got a grandbaby to hold. So where does that kind of fall into your top moments?
Oh, it's way up there. And I'm not a guy that really likes to hang around babies. I'm the one that's, once they can start walking, that's when get Uncle Eddie in there, right? But it's different now. I mean, she's beautiful. She's everything she does. All the things parents and grandparents say the first time, it's coming out of my mouth because it's true, So it's one of the top moments of my life for sure.
Now, 27 years coaching soccer, at least here at the Roeper School. The culture that you've built, what are you most proud of based on what you've been able to do in that span?
I think the most proud thing I have is every single time, no matter who we play, when one of my team steps on the field, they think they can win. No matter who it is, no matter how low we have, been in the wins record or column, we find a way. I mean, the Roeper School is a school for gifted students. They're all very, very bright, but they find a way to compete as a team where they're greater than the sum of their parts. And so if you have a logical game plan, they'll buy into it. If you don't, they'll let you know. But that's a neat thing, I think. Some of it's really high setting goals where we're like, we have to stop this player from scoring. If we do, we got a shot at this game. And then they believe it and they perform. And, having teams go, I don't know how we lost to Roeper, is one of the greatest compliments I receive as a coach. And it's one of the things where our kids can rise up to the occasion. So.
Ed Sack joining me here on Sideline Stories, the head soccer coach and athletic director here at the Roeper School. And Coach, I mentioned 27 years now being the soccer coach here with the Rough Riders. And I look over your shoulder and I see a picture, 2014 boys soccer state champions. What made that team so special?
Well, they loved each other, all of them, whether they're in 9th grade or 12th grade. They bonded together as a team. They went out together as a team. They cared about each other. They were also deep. I mean, they were very talented. You had one of the best players in the state on that team. You had a sophomore named Simon Rennick. He scored 4 goals in the state finals. It's pretty special. He also got a full ride to go to Notre Dame when they were ranked #1 in the nation as a soccer team. So you had some very, very elite players, and you also had some kids that have never played before. We're a very inclusive school with a no-cut policy. So there are some freshmen that came along for the ride and got to have some valuable learning experiences and some unforgettable moments of their soccer career. So that team, very talented but very loving, yeah.
I liked what I read on this. It was a quote, and I want to make sure I don't misparaphrase this, but you were quoted by saying in the paper after the championship, quote, "I have finally come to the realization that no one can take it away from us, that it really happened. That's the coolest thing, to realize that we did accomplish something, and truly it was a community event. Everyone has rallied around this, and the outpouring support and well wishes has been endless." 11 years later, can you still feel that emotion?
Absolutely. The exhale after that game was over, it was so meaningful to me, because when you're becoming a favored team, there's a lot of pressure put on you to perform it and do something. And when you don't get to the state finals that often, no. Most schools don't. And so when you got that shot, it was just a great relief that our team executed the way they could execute it, had a game plan, followed it, and it was successful. And if they had lost and played their best game, that happens. But it's extra special when they came up on top, and that was quite a day.
And you guys almost ran the table that year. You were 23-1, and I don't mean to bring up bad memories, but only loss was to Grosse Pointe Wood, University Liggett, 7-6 in double overtime.
Yes.
So as much as you can remember the win, does that loss still stick in your craw?
Talked about it today, brought it up today. I had a 2-goal lead 2 different times of that game, and I knew we could score more goals, and stubbornly kept pressing to score that 3rd goal to go ahead. And we didn't have the fitness. It was one of the earlier games. It was 90 degrees out, and they were deeper than us. And we ran out of steam, went into double overtime, and lost that. That was all on me. That was 100% my fault.
But you know what? 23-1. It was validated with a championship. Your first ever state title. And again, reading about the community, I mean, you guys had a huge celebration, and the community really showed out for you guys in that one.
It was incredible, yes. And, for the other school to only have to drive 3 miles to get to the stadium, and we had to go 2.5 hours to get there, we filled a bunch of fan buses. Our parents, our students came out and gave us unbelievable crowd presence there. And then the celebration when we came back was even cooler. I mean, this whole place was full, and K through 12 were in here. We had a big celebration. Mayors and all kinds of other dignitaries came in here. It was a great ceremony.
Now, I'm a big ring guy, big championship ring guy, and we were talking about your Eastern Michigan ring. So did you guys get rings for that state title?
Yeah, we did. Not everyone got one, but those that wanted to, yeah, we fitted them out. I have one here. I wear it like on Hall of Fame night or some other events. But we recently just inducted that team into the Hall of Fame last year. It was their 10th anniversary, and a bunch of the guys were wearing them during that time.
Now, do you ever talk about that team to any of your current squads? Of course, you don't want to look back so many years, but say, hey, this is what this team did to get to that level. Now I'm trying to push you to be there. How often do you reference that team?
I reference moments in all the teams. You learn a lot over 20-some years of mistakes and successes, and try to convey that to the team to buy into it. I use them as an example a lot because they were organized, came into the season fit. We didn't have to do any training. But on the same token, there are some teams that do special things that are more physical, that can challenge harder, that get to the ball faster, that team couldn't. So one of the favorite things our kids have in practice, whenever I go, story time, and they all sit down. They're all waiting for the story, whether it's funny or meaningful. But yeah, I reference a lot of the teams in the past.
Ed Sack joining us here on Sideline Stories, of course, the head soccer coach here at the Roeper School and the athletic director and coach. I'm going to maybe bring up something that might make you feel uncomfortable. I don't know if it will or not, because a lot of times people don't like to talk about themselves. But with your longevity, I mean, that just speaks volumes about you as a man, as a coach, as a person that you've been here. But most recently this season, the 2025 season, you've now moved 9th on the all-time soccer wins list in MHSAA history. The new number is 344 after your playoff victory on Thursday, October 9th. So when you hear those numbers and you're closing in on the 8th spot, which is 358 wins, what does that mean to you?
It really doesn't mean a whole lot other than I've been blessed. I mean, all the good things in my life have all been because of God's grace and favor on my life. That being said, there's been incredible players, coaches, and parents put in my path. Incredible. And the only reason the number was coming up is because 15, 20 years ago, the MHSAA, the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association, would post everyone that had their 100th victory or their 150th or their 200th, and they'd make a list. And I was like, that's sort of cool. I'm going to count, and when I hit 100, like, that's sort of neat. But quite honestly, the standard answer is I don't keep track of the victories and everything. I knew how many I had to win this year to move into that spot, but I thought it would be close to one of the last games of the season. So really proud of this year's team. They've over-excelled, and that means a lot to me. Regardless of the record, when teams overperform and overachieve, then me and the coaching staff's doing something right, and so are the players.
Well, you achieved that mark by moving into that 9th spot by beating Lutheran Westland 5-1, and you kind of alluded to it. You kind of knew it was coming up. So was there any kind of celebration for you in the locker room? Was it just kind of something that you just knew personally? And then how did you celebrate yourself? Like, did you go out to dinner?
Like I said, it's a neat thing that, history now. Mm-hmm. But personally, we didn't have a celebration. I think my assistant coach slapped me on the back, and the kids weren't even aware of it at the time. So, no, it was on the down low.
Well, some wins are sweeter than others.
Yes.
And I know I mentioned the 2014 state championship team. Any other wins kind of stick out to you over the last 2+ decades?
One of my favorite, we were playing at Inner City Baptist, who was ranked #1 in the state, one of the hardest places to play at. And we were down 3-0 with 6 minutes to go. And back then our conference had an overtime rule. And our kids actually scored that 3-1 goal. 2 minutes later, 3-2. 30 seconds left in the game, 3-3. We score 45 seconds into the first overtime to go up 4-3 and held on to win and beat them at their place. It was pouring the entire day. As soon as the game was done, the rain stopped and a double rainbow went over the field. Wow. I'll never forget that one. That was quite a miracle. That was cool.
That's awesome. And I know you say you don't, the wins come, right? And they kind of stack up. And I think it's how you pronounce it, Thayer Mukhtar. Does that sound correct?
Terry.
Say again?
Terry
Mukhtar from Warren de La Salle. He has over 700 wins now and still active. You guys are one of the only 2 coaches on the active list. So do you think you're going to coach long enough to catch, or is it more just kind of a friendly rivalry that you have your number, he has his?
He has his number, and it's going to stay there for a very long, long time.
Yeah, again, over 700 wins and counting. But you know what? You're approaching 8th. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But another accomplishment you have, I mentioned the state title team, and you've talked about that last game, but athletic director. So when did you take over being the athletic director?
The next year after that state championship, so 95, 96.
What kind of challenges did you feel being an AD brought that didn't show themselves as maybe a phys ed teacher?
Well, even as a coach, I didn't realize how good Ernie Rigetti, the previous athletic director, was at shielding his coaches from parents, from complaints, all the support that he gave me. My first 2 years, all I wanted to do was quit. I came home, I told my wife, this is not for me. This is too stressful. There's too many things going on. But I'm blessed with an awesome assistant that you met, Scott, and we really have clicked as a team. We're hitting the ground running, and we're having fun now. And that's the biggest thing is in soccer, you got to have fun when you come to practice, right? And we do the same thing at work. You got to have fun when you come to work. I was at a workshop up in Traverse City for athletic directors, and there was this motivational speaker, and he was like, you got to teach your coaches when they go out there that this is the greatest time of the student's day. They're sacrificing their time to come out and participate extracurricular activities. They still have to go home and do homework. So you better not make this boring or work. Make it the greatest part of their day. And it's something I take to heart. So, we have fun in practice. It's not all, run laps. We have some fun while we're in there.
And just to confirm, so you said 95, 96 or 15, 16?
15, 16, absolutely.
Okay, so let's double check on that because now that you've been an athletic director for nearly 10 years, another big accolade came your way. And you were named Athletic Director of the Year alongside Jason Malloy of Westland John Glenn. So when that came in, what did that mean to you?
That meant a lot. To have the respect and support from your colleagues, those are all people from our conference and our region that do incredible things. And, I think a ton about them, how their support to me has made me a better athletic director and organized in the context that they have. It felt awesome. It was really nice to have the respect.
And, just talking to Scott, who you were talking about, your assistant athletic director, when we arrived to do this interview, and looking at this beautiful facility that you guys have, I mean, this is absolutely stunning. There are a lot of complications that you guys have just based on your location here at the Roeper School, and the gymnasium, of course, is next door, which we're in, to the elementary school. You don't have soccer fields of your own. So kind of walk the audience through where you guys play at and how you guys actually play your games, because it's not as easy as leaving the classroom or the locker room and walking outside and playing on a soccer field.
Well, our school has made it a priority to give access to everybody. And so gracious to have a shuttle that leaves from Birmingham to a rental facility in Pontiac, Ultimate or United Wholesale Mortgage Soccer Complex. And all of our kids get to experience top-level facilities to practice and play on in the spring and in the fall, with safe transportation to get there. So, we are landlocked here. We don't have a place for a soccer field, but our school, made it a priority that our kids get the best and they get to get there safely. So really happy with their school and their support.
And despite those challenges, you're still able to try to host volleyball and basketball tournaments. So how do you guys do that?
Well, we do it because you said it yourself. We have one of the best facilities in Oakland County right here, and we love to showcase it. So whenever I can get other teams to come in here and to see what they're missing out on, it's a subtle recruitment effort, but it's also a way to display, what we have here and let our students have home field and home court advantage, and be able to host districts and regionals and give our kids an advantage to play on their home court.
And when you think about the Roeper School, and for someone that doesn't know about Roeper Schools, what would you tell them? Like, what is the mission statement? Like, what is the emphasis behind the school itself?
So we're a gifted and talented school, focusing on, tailoring project-based learning for our students, giving them accelerated classes, but we're also very inclusive, and we respect everyone that comes through our doors. And I think the number one thing you can say about our school is everyone's kind. We have the flattened hierarchy. Everyone talks to each other on a first-name basis. You can have a 5-year-old go up to the head of the school and say, "Hi, Ann." There's not that barrier there, but there is a respect that's expected both ways. But it's a real kind environment that gives students an opportunity to grow.
I gotta say then, if you're a teacher coming over here and you're used to hearing, "Hey, Mr. Wooley," and they say, "Hey, Ryan, what's going on?" it probably catches you off guard a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Did for me for sure.
Well, let's talk about fundraising, because as an athletic director, that's really been a point of emphasis for you. And some of the fundraisers that I've noticed, I mean, you've had Grace Centers of Hope, Lymphoma Society, Moms for Marines, Alternatives for Girls in Special Olympics. Why is fundraising so near and dear to your heart?
Well, this school is very much about the community. And those specific organizations were all piggybacked along with our Spirit Week. We have a very unique Spirit Week that splits the grades up in competitions, but rallies everyone together as a school to help out a cause. And so every single one of those that you mentioned is something that all our student body did. It was very successful. Like Georgia and Anna Marie, they wanted our students to go out and make a difference in the community, not just stay in here and shine. They need to go out into the community and help out others. So our school does a great job at that.
Well, Ed Sack joining us here on Sideline Stories. Again, 2014 state championship with the soccer team, athletic director of the year, named just this past April in 2025. And your season is still going. You guys won in the playoffs yesterday, October 9th. At least at the time of this taping. Your next game will be coming up next week. So let's kind of talk about your team this year. You guys finished 13-4 in the regular season. What do you like about this year's squad?
Well, we have a solid goalie. We have a solid defense. We have a solid midfield, and we have a kid that can score. And so when you have those up and down the field, you got a shot. What we don't have is depth. And it seems like this year a lot of smaller schools, their biggest opponent is injury or sickness. And so when we miss one or two players, it's noticeable. And we've battled through, and we've had some kids step up. So it's been a learning experience for some kids that didn't play the first 10 games that are now starting. So it's literally like the Dan Campbell next man up, right? So proud of them for stepping into those roles and doing what they've done so far.
So you mentioned you have some components, some pieces, but who are your leaders on this year's squad that you want to spotlight?
Absolutely. Leaf Axelares is our center back. He was league MVP last year. Hopefully you'll get an opportunity to speak to him today. Great leader, very tough, really hard to get by. Up top we have Noah Gibbs, a senior also. He's shining as a goal scorer this year, and he's versatility. He's also played in the back. Leaf broke his thumb. Guess who stepped in? Noah came back, sacrificed being in the papers and getting the goals and sacrificed that so our team wouldn't get scored on. And then we have another player, Henry Billings, who is the leading goal scorer, very good and talented midfielder. So those three guys and three captains really make our team tick.
I always like to ask coaches too, because you always have the go-to guys. You always have, like in your case, a goalie that maybe can stand out. But what about an unsung hero, that maybe someone that you saw from summer workouts to now that's really grown the most? He may not be the leading scorer or the best defender, but maybe the most growth over the course of the season.
Well, how about a kid that's never played soccer?
Okay.
That's a starting goalie that has about 12 shutouts. So last year, we had a kid step up and never played soccer, played goalie for us, and became honorable mention All-State. This year, the same thing's happening. And if you had seen him in the beginning of the year, his name is Adam Bondi, you would say, he's not going to start the rest of the year. And the amount of progress he's made, I mean, he is clutch. And the team can really rely on him. He's stepped up. But he came out because we didn't have enough players in a goalie. And so that's the neat thing about our kids, is looking out for each other. Is if it's not your primary sport, you'll play a secondary sport to help out your buddies. And if you don't have that in small schools, you don't have athletic programming. And if you don't have kids willing to do that, you don't have successful teams. So without him and some others, their unselfish act of coming out in sports is a lot of work. It's a lot of hours after school. I'm really proud of him for doing that.
With his last name being Bondi, it just reminds me all the time about the word bond, team bonding. So what are some things you guys did in the early part of the season, maybe even still do now this year in the playoffs, that you guys bond together and you guys have become that tight-knit group?
We went bowling the other day. Like I said, the biggest opponent for some of the small schools is injury, and we were banged up. And so on one Friday, all the boys got together and went down to the bowling lanes. We didn't practice. We rolled the ball down the alley, and 65 may have won it on one lane, but they're better at soccer than they are at bowling. But they like to be around each other. They gather on their own on the weekends, and they're a tight group.
Well, if you could summarize this season, maybe in a couple words, I mean, maybe you already said it, overachieving. I don't know if that's the word you want to use or not, but how would you label this year's soccer team?
Coming from the beginning of the year, my assistant and I were worried we wouldn't have a team. We thought we'd be right at the 11-player, 12-player spot. And with injuries and sickness, we're like, we may have to play some games and start less than 11. To have 16 kids come out on the first day was a big surprise for me. So I would say I'm shocked. This year's team is shocking. And then the success that they found, my assistant and I are pretty good at predicting if we're going to win or lose. And we always go through every single game before the season starts. And I think I had us at 11, 4, and 2 or something along those lines, whatever adds up to 17. And I know he had it lower. Okay. So for them to be playing right now in 14 and 4 or whatever they are at this point, it means a lot that they've stepped up really overachieved. I mean, we've said that word a few times, but that's what they've done. And that's entirely my goal every season is, if we're only supposed to win 7 games,
Right.
let's win 10 somehow.
And some people might hear that and say, well, is overachieving a negative connotation? It's really not. Like you set a bar, and especially as a coach, or as long as you guys have been a coach, you look at your team and say, okay, this is the talent level we have. This is where I think we can compete. And then if you can step up over that, and like you said, it could be one win, right? I got them at 10 and 7, right? And you go 12 and 5. I mean, that's by itself technically overachieving where you thought they would be. And now you're into the district finals with your first playoff win. So that's a good thing to have.
District semifinals.
The semis, yes, excuse me. All right, well, Coach, if I asked some players or coaching staff members about you specifically as a coach, a man, a leader, what would you hope they would say?
Oh, integrity for sure. I try to be transparent, so I hope they see that. And I care. I care about them on and off the field. And I think that that transpires more when they become seniors and see 4 years of it. But I hold them accountable, and I'm honest about what I expect and honest about how we got to get there. So integrity would mean a lot to me, and caring.
Well, Coach, we had a chance to actually talk to some of those players, an assistant coach and the head of the school about you, and this is what they had to say. If you could describe your coach, Ed Sack, in a few words, how would you describe him?
I'll pick 3, I think. Number 1, I'd say loyal. He's loyal to us, and he's always going to tell us what he thinks. I'd say fun is a big part of Ed. Ed loves to have fun. We're always doing fun things, laughing around in practice, and it's a very enjoyable environment in the soccer team, and I think that's something that is really valuable of this experience for me. And lastly, I'll say Ed is, I say transparent, and he's always gonna, it's expanding on what I said for loyal, but he's gonna tell us what's going on, what he thinks.
I'd say he's enthusiastic. He comes every day to practice, regardless of how his day went or what he was doing that day, and you can tell that the switch flips, and he brings the energy, and I think that really translates to the energy that we play with. And then also I would reflect a lot of what Noah was saying, that he's very transparent. If you're not trying hard, he'll tell you. If you're doing something wrong, he'll tell you, but it's always in a constructive way. He always very clearly wants the best for you and for the team.
Like I think just bringing teams together, right? It feels like every year, and since when I was a player and now being on the coaching staff with him, it feels like there is just a unique bond amongst the players towards himself, and then each other. I think he creates just a fun environment to play, and I think that tends to just bring out the best in the boys.
So getting to know Ed and the time you have and seeing the success he's had, over the last couple of decades, what do you feel his strengths are?
Ed Sack is the kind of person who will never plateau. I think that he is always interested in pushing himself further, and that's evidenced by, every single year, every single season with new teams and returning players. He wants them to be the best that they can be, and he takes great pride in our students' accomplishments. In addition to that, he just completed his certificate as a Master Athletic Administrator, and no one made him do that.
Now, you talked about transparency, some of the strengths that he brings as a coach, but what lesson stands out the most to you that you've learned from him in your time on the soccer team?
One lesson that I think I've learned from Ed, what matters the most is the effort you put in and what you're getting out of it. It doesn't matter if you win or lose at the end of the day, as long as you know that you've tried your hardest and you're getting the most that you can out of the game that you played, whatever you've done.
I'd say this is a little niche, but his pregame speeches and his halftime speeches, they'll really get you fired up, ready to go. He'll give a great game plan, and he'll make sure that you execute that game plan. And then on a personal level, I'd say he'll connect to you and make sure that, you know, for a lot of like captains and seniors, he'll ask us like, what do you guys feel?
It's having productive practices, games, but also making it a fun, environment. I think the kids really, I can speak for myself when I was a player, and I think the kids now, it's like your last period's almost over, you're looking at the clock in 10 minutes and you're genuinely excited to go to practice, which I think just brings out, chemistry-wise and just getting better from the beginning of a season to the end of the season. I think that goes a long way because he does create this environment that is nice, and freshmen feel comfortable, and I think the boys have a big part of it too, but, all ages are feeling comfortable, and within that second week, you see the nerves go out from everybody that they might be a little bit, afraid to step on each other's toes, and you just have a good chemistry throughout.
I think he is very much a role model for students in the sense that he is himself always a learner. He's never going to consider himself a finished product. And the fact that he pushes himself every year and he pushes his own learning further is a really powerful message to our students that they should do the same. And secondly, the care that he shows for his athletes and their teams is contagious. He establishes a level of respect and care that the students take on and internalize for themselves and extend to each other. So there's an ethic of care, an ethic of effort, and Roeper School spirit.
Good stuff as always. And Coach, just one final question for you. I specifically asked you to give me a picture of you from your first year, 1998, when you took over as a soccer coach. If you could look at that picture and sit down with that man like you're sitting down with me and talk about the career you're on, the path you've been on, what it's like to be a coach here at the Roeper School, what advice would you give that young man?
It's 100%, it's not about the wins. It's about the relationships. It's about growing these young boys into young men, 100%. And I alluded back to that losing when I was married, going out to the garage and not being able to come in because I was so angry. It's not that anymore. If you don't give your full effort, then you can be upset. I just want them to be better people. I want them to know I have their back and that I care about them.
Once again, that was Ed Sack joining me here on Sideline Stories, the head soccer coach and athletic director at the Roeper School. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you
for taking the time.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that.